Colorado's large magazine ban is ineffective gun control. We've showed you that. Today, the state's high court considers whether it's also illegal. A call to allow civil lawsuits against priests who abuse children, men who are currently protected by the passage of time. A councilman who recalled Brighton's mayor last week is straight up threatening to recall his colleagues if they won't support his new choice for mayor. Managing our mountains, a pile of data is driving decisions about how to preserve our peaks. All that is next. Colorado's ban on high-capacity gun magazines does not stop people from buying them. Our Marshall Zellinger has been showing us this week that all you do is you buy the pieces and then you put it together at home. Simple stuff. Today, the state Supreme Court considered whether the ban is illegal as well as ineffective.
Even before we found large-capacity magazines still being sold in Colorado gun stores,
it's at your discretion once you walk out the door to how you use it.
The large-capacity magazine ban was challenged in court soon after it took effect in 2013.
Rocky Mountain gun owners versus Jared Polis.
6 years later, that lawsuit reached the Colorado Supreme Court.
What is irrational here about the government saying, if you don't have to reload and you can fire 15 times in a row, the odds of you hurting more people is significantly higher than if you had to stop and reload? What's crazy about that?
The evidence at trial was that 2 had been abused. 2 magazines, not 2 million, 2 magazines have been abused in the state of Colorado. So it's literally the fact that the government is saying if there's a 1 in a million chance that one of these firearm components can be abused by a homicidal maniac, we get to ban them all.
Barry Arrington is the attorney for Rocky Mountain gun owners. He answered questions from the justices on why limiting capacity would violate someone's constitutional right.
If you're going to look at statistics, and they say the odds are so low that no one is ever use this for a mass shooting, well, the odds are also low that anyone needs 15 rounds to defend oneself.
Reserve capacity is essential when in a self-defense situation, because even law enforcement statistics show only hit 30% of the time. Citizens are going to hit less than that.
Part of today's hearing focused on what the legislature meant when it defined a large-capacity magazine as designed to be readily converted to accept more than 15 rounds of ammunition.
We sell part kits.
We sell ours as parts kits.
Everything we sell as far as mags are parts kits.
If you walk into a gun store and see 2 bags saying buy this one and put them together yourself, and that's what they tell you, that clearly violates the law.
Not only did the Attorney General's office argue that the current magazine ban is legal in Colorado, Eric Olson also told the state Supreme Court that the parts kits we found in multiple gun stores is not a loophole at all.
A reasonable inference of what the legislature was trying to do was target people who sold in 2 bags what would be illegal to sell together.
It will be months before we get a ruling from the Colorado Supreme Court on the constitutionality of this 6-year-old law. But the Attorney General's office made it clear in court today, Kyle, that what we found is not that loophole, just flat out against the law.
So that's what they say, but I mean, you walked into those gun shops and those folks said, we don't care, we're just going to do it. So I mean, are they actually going to go in there and police it?
The onus would be on the sheriffs and the DAs to file charges in a case like this. So yeah, even if the Supreme Court finds that it's constitutional and you can keep it on the books, and the Attorney General says, no, this is illegal, it still requires enforcement.
I guess there are all kinds of laws that we just choose not to enforce, but interesting. All right, thank you, Marshall. No charges for the Colorado Springs police officers who shot and killed a 19-year-old robbery suspect who was running from them. They said that they found a gun in Devon Bailey's pants after they shot him. Grand jury looking into that shooting from August made its decision today. Bailey and another man were approached by officers who had identified them as suspects in an armed robbery. Bailey took off running. The officers said that they believed that Bailey was going for a gun when they killed him. Most of the children abused by priests in Colorado are today adults. What that means, among other things, is that they can't file lawsuits, can't get compensation, or access documents related to their cases. A new report released today names dozens of new priests accused of abuse. Our Mark Salinger looks at the pressure to change the law to empower victims.
And they told me, if Jesus could suffer and die on the cross, I would think you could handle this.
One by one, they share their stories. It's all they can do.
I just lived with the guilt and shame for so long.
One day, they hope the law will help them heal.
The only way to keep the kids safe and to protect the kids from further harm and allow the truth to be revealed is to remove the statute of limitations.
The statute of limitations in Colorado has expired for Joe Medee. Same for John Murphy. Same for nearly every victim who was abused as a child by a priest in our state.
The Catholic bishops would hold up the statute of limitations as a shield and say you can't do anything about it.
Last month, we learned the names of 43 priests accused of abuse. Today, a law firm representing alleged victims released the names of 59 more. Most have never been held accountable in the eyes of the law.
The statute of limitations is so short that it has allowed and protected offenders.
Attorney Jeff Anderson's report digs deeper into abuse within the Catholic Church, investigating religious orders and priests who worked in Colorado but were accused of abuse elsewhere. If the statute of limitations was abolished, civil cases could be tried. Criminal cases could not.
Instead of protecting kids and innocent children, is protected predators.
Joe McGee took a $10,000 settlement for the abuse he suffered. He says now he'd ask for much more.
They treated me like I was a troublemaker.
This report names all of the 43 priests that were also named in the Attorney General's report. The other names come from other reports that have publicly named the priests in the past all around the country. Kyle. All right, Mark Salinger reporting. Thank you, Mark. It is total recall in Brighton. The councilman who just got the mayor recalled last week is now threatening to take out 2 fellow city council members if they won't vote for his new choice to be mayor. Councilman Matt Johnson just straight up admitted it to me that he made threats. Johnson led the charge to get former Mayor Ken Kreitzer recalled last week. Johnson accused the former mayor of overbilling for water and then firing the city manager to cover it up. Brighton City Council is meeting right now. Johnson told me that he will have a compromise for the colleagues that he threatened with recalls. Johnson said that if they'll vote for another one of his allies for mayor, well, then he won't have them recalled. We are still looking into who is telling the truth about last night's wild story. Is it the Lamborghini driver who says that state troopers let him off with a warning for going 190 miles per hour? Or is it CSP, which says that a single trooper made a mistake by writing a novelty or a trophy ticket? CSP says the guy was just asking for directions and then asked the trooper to write him a joke ticket. The driver told me on the phone he absolutely was going 190 through Colorado. When I told him the trooper had a different story, he said, "We'll go with them." We have asked officially under the open records law for the dash cam video. That's going to tell us who's lying. By now, perhaps you heard that Denver police found so much of the drug fentanyl that they put out a warning concerned that people would overdose and die. Enough fentanyl that police said it came into Colorado in a brick-like form. Weren't really sure what that meant. What does that brick actually tell us about drug trafficking in our state? Here's Anusha Roy.
The people who have made it their business to track fentanyl don't like what they're seeing.
I think it was about a pound that was seized.
That includes Todd Zimmerman with the DEA.
The traffickers are starting to try to introduce this into Colorado, introduce M30 fentanyl-laced pills into Colorado.
Those fake pills are what investigators usually confiscate. But what Denver police found was the powerful synthetic opioid in brick form. And the DEA wants to know if someone wants to use that kind of fentanyl to make fake pills in state.
That specific brick that was seized by the Denver Police Department is concerning to the DEA because, number one, it could be a pill press in the region. And number two, they may be starting to cut methamphetamine with fentanyl.
This is a change because not only was the drug masked to look like something it's not.
This was a new form that looked a lot like black tar heroin, which is used by folks throughout the city.
And so it is much higher risk for overdose. Again, if people don't know that they're using it.
It indicates a problem encroaching on Colorado.
It took a little bit longer to get here. It's definitely been out east for a long time, and we just kind of, like with a lot of drugs, you see it come in from the coast.
Right now, it's the Sinaloa cartel and the new generation Jalisco cartel that are dominant in producing and transporting fentanyl into the United States.
The DEA said most of Colorado's fentanyl comes through the southwest border, often smuggled in by vehicle. Its value can nearly triple once it reaches the U.S., another reason investigators are worried. So one more reason that the fentanyl problem is a little bit slower for our area right now is that a lot of people are using meth in this region, but the DEA is worried that someone might be trying to change that. So right now they're warning people to stay away from Oxybot on the streets, even from friends. And actually the city and the state have started this network to watch for all of this stuff, which is why Denver police said within 3 hours of what they found, Denver Fire, Denver Health, the Department of Health, all of them knew about what the investigators found during that undercover operation.
They truly treated it like an emergency. I remember, Nusha, the first time that I remember hearing about fentanyl, and it was a drug diversion situation where it was intended for hospital patients and people inside hospitals were stealing it.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that there's actually a legal use for this. It's only if your doctor prescribes it, and it is for severe pain. We're talking like cancer patients. This illegal stuff, though, it is chemically different, very dangerous, and the biggest issue is that you just don't know what you're ingesting.
Anusha Roy, thank you. Democratic Governor Jared Polis is back in Colorado from his trade mission to India, back with receipts. We now know that trip cost taxpayers nearly $20,000. We asked on your behalf what it would cost when they left, and we were told they had to wait till everybody came back. Taxpayers are going to cover the airfare and the hotels and such. The governor's office estimates, and you can decide whether or not you buy this, that India trip will create 220 jobs in Colorado.
At what point do Colorado's 14ers become as crowded as the 16th Street Mall? And how will we step in to manage those wild places? Next.
The most Colorado thing we've seen today is a snow angel with hooves. Cody loves the snow as much as a lot of dogs that I've seen before. Next viewer named Carol shared this photo of her horse in Littleton rolling in this week's snow. See, this is the attitude that we need to have when it snows. Enjoy it. What's the most Colorado thing you've seen? Use the hashtag HeyNext or email next@9news.com.
That may be the most Colorado thing we've seen today, but it's the most favorite thing that I've seen today. I love that so much. And how about this evening? Clear and cool after the arrival of the first of two storms. And the storm today was fairly weak. It brought in some wind and cooler temperatures that were actually close to the average for this time of year. Down to 36 at the airport, wind chill at 30. And we have the really cold air retreating off to the east of us as high pressure rebuilds. With the storm track to the north, we have actually a mild pattern in spite of the fact that we've got a series of fronts lined up to the north of us and to the west of us. Now, the next one comes in on Saturday. It's a little bit colder, potential for a few snow showers Saturday night. Out on the far eastern plains, a wind shift tonight may mean a brief rain or snow shower. Fort Morgan, Sterling, out to North Platte. Denver, less wind tonight, and it will be a chilly night with our low at 27. Partly cloudy skies to start, sunshine by the afternoon, mid-50s, and look at Friday's high, close to 70. Cooler Saturday evening with rain and snow showers Saturday night, ending Sunday. Warmer weather moving in on Monday and Tuesday, and the full moon pictures lately have been spectacular.
Thanks, Kathy. Aurora's mayoral race still is not over, but we are getting close. Midnight's the deadline for about 1,000 voters to fix ballots that have signature issues. The campaigns in that too close to call race have been running around trying to get ballots corrected, and at this point, 220 ballots in Arapahoe County are fixed. 136 of those are in the city of Aurora. 136 votes could make a difference in the race for mayor. Democrat Omar Montgomery trails Republican Mike Coffman by 281 votes. The candidates will target voters with busted ballots that they suspect are their supporters, but they don't know how that person voted. Race wasn't close enough for an automatic recount, though Montgomery could pay for one once the final results are announced tomorrow. DIA is out of its toxic relationship with its old contractor, and today the new one's moving in. Hansel Phillips is taking over as the new contractor for the Great Hall project. Santec will do the design. Great Hall Partners was the old contractor. They were fired in August, and they had until noon yesterday to move out all their stuff, clear the site, make it weatherproof, and make it safe. Denver City Council needs to approve the new contracting team before they can start work next year.
Coloradans have a new favorite 14er in terms of the number of people piling on to climb it. And it seems that Next viewers are torn about our intro music, so Leslie has a suggestion.
Data is power. Having that accurate information helps us know how things work, helps us make them work better. Our Mike Grady discovered how data is being used to protect Colorado's highest mountains.
Colorado's growing, use on the 14ers is growing.
A lot of people moving to Colorado like to climb mountains. Shocker. Lloyd Athern is the executive director of Colorado 14ers Initiative.
2018 14er use report.
CFI estimates 353,000 people climbed 14ers in 2018. That's up from 334,000 in 2017.
We had a new #1 peak. Quandary surpassed Bierstadt as the most climbed 14er.
23 infrared counters mounted on trees or hidden in cairns measured traffic. Yale interns did Yale things to estimate use on mountains without counters.
And we came up with some statistically valid formulas that would allow us to help then estimate what we think it would be if we had a counter there.
More traffic doesn't necessarily mean negative impact on trails.
If we know that use is increasing, but we're not seeing any deterioration on the trail, we have a good idea that the trail's in a good location and it's probably built to a good standard.
14er climbers injected over $95 million into Colorado's economy in 2018, buying things like gear, food, and gas.
Hey, there are a lot of people coming here, and they spend a lot of money before they get here, while they're here.
Data can only do so much. In the end, it's up to us to be good stewards of our mountains.
You have to be more considerate the more people we have sharing a given area. That means being respectful to the environment. It means being respectful to other visitors.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
CFI shares its intel with the Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management, and they're updating it with fresh numbers from this climbing season. We're back in a moment with a very good question from a viewer about why I used one specific word during tonight's show. Your feedback is next. Joe writes in to say, Kyle, you reported that Democratic Governor Polis is back in the state. Why does it matter that Polis is a Democrat? Joe, anytime there's a political story that is the least bit contentious and somebody has a party affiliation, I try to give you their political identifier. Every time, Republican, Democrat, Independent. You can hold me accountable to that. They might do things differently on some other shows. Don't at me about that stuff. See you next time.